My morning battle was coffee, and it turned into Mad Libs. Not so bad, getting ready for school, which is my job. Sometimes turns into what was I doing? Have you ever watched a plane circle a tower? Maybe you're in that plane and you're like, that's my brain. I'm just waiting for it to find that runway. I'm a special education teacher. I design runways for kids' brains, IEPs, routines. I create structure for them. I understand them. I help them land safely. That morning, I couldn't land my brain for 20 minutes. I woke up at 6:40. I make coffee every morning. I turned on the machine. Good start. Then I sat down on my electric blanket. I think I went there to turn it on and I ended up staring at a wall. Forgot what I was doing. I got up, I saw a Mad Lib on the table. That looks fun. I finished the Mad Lib. Success, but not what I was supposed to be doing. I've been struggling with these things for a while. So, because I'm a teacher working with kids who have the same executive functioning struggles, I already had a visual schedule that I built for myself. So, I went and I looked at my visual schedule. Coffee wasn't on there, make coffee wasn't on there. Why would it be? It seems very silly to put make coffee on a visual schedule for an adult. Also, when I was reading my visual schedule, I realized it's not very eye appealing. There are no pictures like I do for my kindergarten and first graders, so I might change that up a bit. Adults, if you need a visual schedule, make sure you put pictures on it. I'm going to drop one below in the description for adults and kids. Anyway, I finished my Mad Lib. I was happy about that, but I realized later that this whole time my brain had been circling the tower. It took me 20 minutes to remember that I was making coffee to get my first sip. And it's a really good thing that it was a weekend. I'm grateful it was a weekend because if it was a work day and I was supposed to be getting ready for school, I might have been late or more likely I would have just not had coffee because I would have kept track of time and known I had to leave at a certain time and I just wouldn't have my special morning treat. A second scenario, I might have to rely on the other adult in my home to manage my executive functioning, which isn't fun to do. I've been able to relate a lot more with my students these days as we're having some of the same struggles. Sustained attention, being able to initiate a task, start any task, and working memory. But their distractions are different. My distractions are things like doing a Mad Lib. Their distractions are interpreted as bad behaviors. They might cut up an eraser when they're bored or they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. They might get up out of their seat and end up under a table. They might start running around the room like a tiger. Their behaviors affect everyone. Their behaviors affect the instruction. So oftentimes, teachers can't explain it either. And because it disrupts everyone, they feel the misbehavior behind it. But they're not trying to misbehave. The kids aren't trying to misbehave. Really, their brains are just circling that tower. Teachers and parents, it's our job to help them land. That morning, I couldn't land my brain for 20 minutes, but I didn't get in trouble for it. I even used a tool, my schedule, and that tool didn't work. So the kids need tools too. And it's important to remember that even those tools we give the kids, they might not work either. Sometimes we implement those tools inconsistently because we don't have enough support in schools. Some days we do. Maybe we weren't taught how to use that tool efficiently by the special education teacher, or maybe it's a new teacher, or we didn't have time to collaborate. We're not following that tool with fidelity. There's many reasons why. For whatever reason, that tool might not work on a certain day for a kid. but it's important to realize it might not work every day. So what we can do is have compassion and understanding. We can let these kids know they're not bad. We can encourage them, and we can help them practice the skills that they need to learn. These kids are going to grow up someday, and they're going to remember the adults who did have that, who did have compassion and understanding and helped them, even if those adults couldn't give them the tools.